Welcome to this week's CTO Studio. I sit with Unmesh Srivastava. We talk about India, we talk about healthcare, we talk about the future of healthcare. Stay tuned.
I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
Welcome to the CTO Studio. I'm your host, Etienne de Bruin. The CTO Studio is where we chat with CTOs building amazing products with incredible teams. Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Okay, Unmesh Srivastava.
That's right.
Welcome to the CTO Studio.
Thank you, Etienne.
Do you know what you signed up for?
We'll see how it goes.
Thanks for joining. We're in Los Angeles. Where do you live?
I live in Greater LA in the city of Monrovia.
Okay. And you are from India.
I am from
India.
India.
I have only one question for you.
Yes.
One question and one statement. Which one should I do first?
Well, whatever is better.
Well, I'll do Sachin Tendulkar.
He's a global phenomenon.
And then my second question is, what was your order in the batting order?
Yes. So, I grew up playing cricket. And in India, like most of the other kids do, I used to play cricket and I was an opening batsman.
Oh.
So you go on the strike first.
I was an opening batsman as well.
Oh, that's so cool.
So as a South African, obviously, cricket is a big deal for us.
Yes.
Do you follow cricket?
I do.
So you're following, do you have a Willow subscription?
I do. There's a India-Australia series going on right now.
So what's happening there? What's the standing?
So India won there was a test. So you know the difference, right? There's this test series and then there's the one-dayers.
Mm-hmm.
So India won the test series after, I think, 70 years or so.
Oh,
in Australia.
In
Australia. And then now they're playing the one-day, so they lost the first game.
Mm.
Yeah.
South Africa right now is playing Pakistan.
Yes.
And we're destroying them in the test series.
Hey,
I'm talking 2-3 day tests.
Oh, 2-3 day tests.
Well, 5 days ending in 3 days.
Wow.
That's huge.
That's great. Well, my favorites were Jack Callis, and Jonty Rhodes.
So my son's name is Jacques, which is Jacques Callis.
Jacques Callis.
So when did you come to the States?
I came to the States in 2008.
Okay.
And I came here in Los Angeles to California State University, Northridge, to pursue Masters of Science in Engineering Management.
Mm.
So, time just flew by.
How was that? So which city are you from in India?
I'm from New Delhi.
Oh, I've been to New Delhi.
Oh, wow. How did you like the traffic?
The traffic was okay.
How about the food?
The food was amazing.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a South African, so we have a lot of Indians in South Africa.
That's true.
I will say I almost got killed by a snake in the park.
Oh my God.
Those things that they do when they...
Which park did you go to?
It must have been the dangerous part. Basically, the park it was a Friday night and the park was packed.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere you went, you had these snake charmers and...
Wow.
That's...
Oh my... And now how long ago was that?
That was in about 99, 2000.
You should go there again.
Is it?
I think there's the world is moving to a more global sort of ways of doing things, right? I think India right now, the way it's growing in terms of its economy, I think it's the world's second fastest growing economy. So I think it's just different from 99 to now. If you go there, before starting at my current gig, I was working with the United Health Group, and we had around 13 to 16,000 people working off of Gurgaon, which is sort of close to New Delhi. And I think it's different now. Like the overall economy is growing, people are growing with it, and there's so much going on.
So if I was to walk through that park today, you're saying it would be more snake charmers or less?
I think it will be. I don't think you'll see any snake charmers.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So you're saying is it just becoming more metropolified or whatever? It's more gentrified.
It's way more metro now, and yeah, it's just different now. Because I remember growing up in New Delhi. I go back now. Try to go back once a year, or for work I do travel because we have our offshore teams there. And now it's considerably different. Very metro.
Are your offshore teams in Delhi?
Well, when I was at United, we had in Gurgaon. Yeah.
The other experience I had was we kept going northeast to try and get to Nepal, and I kept saying to my wife, I want to go to a small town. I want to just be in a small, remote town. And every town we got to, it was smaller, but there were still millions of people.
Yeah.
Like small.
Right. Yeah. No, it's...
I mean, a small village could have 5 million people in it.
Right. Well, yeah. And we guys are second in terms of the world population. So you're talking about 1.3 billion people.
Yes. And that's what I tell my friends about my experience is being in a country that has 1 billion plus people is in and of itself a remarkable experience because there are people everywhere.
That's
the
true.
Small towns have hundreds of thousands of people in them.
That's true.
And then I probably almost died in a bus ride. Do you know Nainital?
Yes. Okay.
So we were on one of those mountain passes.
Okay.
And I cannot believe that more people don't die on those drives.
Oh yeah, those are crazy drives.
I've never ever seen a bus have to stop so that everyone can puke out the windows because of sickness and then get back in the bus and go.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I think now, as I said, now I'm assuming this was a
This was in
while ago.
99, yeah.
Yeah, I think now things are changing, but still I think there's a long way to go. Now, granted, the country has been independent only for 70 years, and I think it's like, Phoenix rising out of ashes since in 1947 the independence came. So I think if you really see that, and I think it's similar with South Africa as well. Yeah. They're trying to stand up and move fast, and the kind of growth that has been in the economy in the country last 20 years has been amazing.
Except that South Africa is going backwards pretty badly.
Why is that?
There's a war on the whites.
Mm-hmm.
Get them out of Africa for the Africans.
Interesting.
Sad.
Yeah.
Anyways, just a final sort of to close that. What is your mental model for Mahatma Gandhi?
What do you mean by mental
model? Is he like Mandela? For me, is the father of the nation, remarkable human being who transformed our society for at least 2 decades post apartheid.
Right.
What as an Indian citizen / heritage, who is Gandhi to you?
Well, I think the biggest role in India's independence, he was the one, along with a lot of other freedom fighters who led it, but, he was the father of the nation. And that's how I think majority across India, we consider him father of the nation because he led us through the independence, and it was a long fight. And some of his principles, I think, like non-tolerance, his principle were that, you stay calm, you have to be very tolerant, and, don't respond to, if there's bad going on, you necessarily do not have to respond to it by doing bad stuff, right? So I think I clearly follow that in my profession as well, and my personal life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that. I went to his I think he's Eternal Flame or something. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So let's get back to reality. You are the CTO. Tell us about your journey to going from United Health, coming to the States to complete your engineering management master's degree.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
So came here in 2008, and I was always, so my undergrad is electronics and communication engineering, but I've always been a people person, and I've always liked managing projects, people, work, and taking ownership. So when I was planning to do my master's, I thought that what better than engineering management to pursue as a course. So I got an admission in Cal State Northridge right after I completed my undergrads. I came over back in 2008. It was peak recession, and people were not having jobs, and it was a different state when I came here. It was very different than how I had imagined it. But I think it taught me quite a bit, because at the time when I was going to school, I was doing part-time jobs. I was learning. My first campus job was at Burger King. And when I started working, I was not very happy about it. I was like, okay, I'm a electronics and communication engineer. What the heck am I doing at Burger King? Right. But I think
what did you do at Burger King?
Well, I was on the front, on the cash. I was at the cashier's register. And it was in the school, but now I go back and think about it.
How that shaped you.
Yeah, it shaped me quite a bit, because now, one, I had to talk to all different nationalities, talk to different people. And then one of the things that you asked to do as a cashier, you are looking at your business and you're making sure that you can make money for it, right? So I was always selling. So the art of selling, I think that was one place that taught me quite a bit. How can I and my, I was famous because, it's like if someone is there to get a small, small burger and a drink, I will make sure they go out of the door with a large drink and a large fries. So,
and were you incentivized for that, or?
No. I think it's just generally making
sure. So let's do that. I come to you and I want a small burger and fries.
Sure.
What is the first thing you say to me?
Well, I think that's a great choice, that you're here for, Whopper or Whopper Junior. But hey, it's a long day and I know you've got classes. What's going on? What's your major? Oh, so what's your major, Etienne?
I'm computer science.
Okay, so I'm assuming you'll have classes in the evening, 7 to 10. Oh my God.
All night.
Yeah, so...
And I have to study.
And you have to study. So if you ask me my suggestion, just pay 20 cents more.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Have me.
Yeah.
Take my money.
That's perfect. Right. So, yeah, that's how it worked.
Wow. So I think I always love how when you listen to any story or any person you admire, there's always that period in their life where things just don't go their way. They had to fight through struggle, and I think in a way, going into a job like that, it doesn't surprise me that it's helped shape, you.
Yeah.
Because it's not just what you learn, it's how the character has to adjust and grow into this responsibility, even if it is mundane.
Right. And I think if what you were just talking about, I think it goes back to that. I think the concept is similar. When you're working for a multi-billion-dollar enterprise or you're working for a mom and pop store, end of it as a fabric that you build inside of you is, how can you do your best and how can you sell your organization or your services or whatever you do to your customers, which will positively impact the business that you're working for. And I think that goes back to everything. It goes back to the business you're working for, the people who are working for you. How do you make sure that you sell the services, how you build stuff, how you build the products, and how they are perceived, so that you can make sure that your teams are sustained for a long period and you can manage great teams.
But I am going to say, Unmesh, that when you asked me about how long my day was, I did feel a draw to you. So I think you have a gift. You gave me the warm fuzzies.
Yeah, well,
Is it from your parents?
Well, yes, definitely. So my mother is a clinician. She's a homeopathic doctor, and I've seen her. I've seen her through my, while growing up. I've seen her go through her patients, and I think she made that personal connection with the patients. And she still practices, and I still see patients when I was young, or people who used to come to her for medicine still coming over. So I also, the way I was brought up is in a very middle class family. I think it's just the way I was brought up. It was about making genuine connections, and really, you cannot fake it. What I've learned from my mom and my family, my wife is very similar. You cannot fake it. You either have it or you don't. And as a leader in an organization, if you don't build that kind of connection with your people, you cannot get anything done, or you will not get their respect in order to do, work together as a team.
And the currency you have to spend in order to build that connection is time.
Exactly.
And if you're not going to make that time, you might say, well, I have to spend my time on this roadmap or this spreadsheet or this strategic meeting. Great. But you need to spend time on these people that are following your company vision and spending their time on your vision. And I think that's the difference, is when you're serving someone, whether it's at Burger King or at a solution engineering meeting with a potential new customer, is just, are you willing to take that time and invest it authentically and truthfully into that person's life?
I completely agree with you.
So you then, what happened?
So I pursued my master's. At the time, it was 2008.
Burger King fired you.
I left. So I was there for, I think, good 2 semesters. But at the time, there was, all the kids or the grad students, at least the international ones, they were holding off on graduating because they knew it's going to be hard to get a job. But I somehow saw that as an opportunity. I thought that, so you think of the worst, like what worse can happen, right? I think that goes back to your question on character. I think if you have a strong will, you look at these external conditions, they are external conditions. I knew the first interview I get, I'm going to crack it and I'm going to go work for that company. So 2 semesters in, I left my job at Burger King and I was doing a bunch of tutoring, working on some other jobs. I left all of that and I said, okay, well, what do I need in next 6 months? I just need to start preparing for interviews and start pretty much, going out and building myself up for those interviews, which are going to happen 6 months down the line. So 6 months down, I get this call from a management consulting firm. It's called Agama Solutions, which is in Fremont, and they've got all these tech clients across the board. And I meet with them. I crack the interview, and their first client that I started working with was Kaiser Permanente. And that's how I got my break. I got to Kaiser Permanente as a solution consultant when I started. And that's where, I looked at healthcare. I had so much effervescence, energy. I was a technologist by education, but then I thought there's so much I've learned which can be implemented in this particular industry. And also my mother is a doctor. So I always had that, somehow some connection with healthcare, because I always wanted to help people. So I think at Kaiser Permanente, I realized that this is what I want to do, and I want to be a healthcare technologist. And enable patients, physicians with the best technology so that we can really cut out the cost out of the system and improve the quality of care.
And just for some context, what is the healthcare system in India compared to the US?
Yes, great question. So, healthcare system in US is very health plan focused, right? So, there's the insurance, and if you subscribe to insurance, which you have to through different plans, or you can through different plans here, you're assigned a doctor, and most of your healthcare costs really go to the health plan. So you go to a doctor's office, the claim is generated, goes out to the health plan, they pay the claim, and you're paying your regular co-pays as well as paying for the insurance. India, I think in last 5 years has changed. Now it's getting to this model of health plans and benefit providers, but traditionally it has been out of pocket sort of system. So I see these two countries as two different extremes. In India, you might go to a clinic. So there are positives and negatives to both. One, in India, like here, if you call a PCP, you need at least 2 weeks. You have a 2 weeks wait before you can get into the door. There you call the PCP or when I say PCP, primary care provider, you can get into the you just can walk into the clinic and you'll get the appointment. But then you're paying everything out of pocket, which was traditionally the healthcare system in in India. But now it's changing. Now there are all these global players like AIG is coming to India. They are local.
So you pay the monthly fees, you pay the copay, and it's that kind of system.
Yep, very insurance based.
So Kaiser Permanente, then what happened?
So I was at Kaiser Permanente, and then I was at the time doing quite a bit of stuff related to ICD-9 to ICD-10, and then I got into the innovation team, so I was doing quite a bit. So our team was called Innovation and Solution Design, and we were really looking at the next generation products and builds for Kaiser. And Kaiser I think that was the most amazing experience, because Kaiser is one of the top, most innovative healthcare delivery systems in the world. And I got a first-hand opportunity to look at projects in robotics and RPA, in artificial intelligence, NLP. So I think that was great experience. I was there for a good 2.5 to close to 3 years. And then I wanted to venture out and learn something new. So I got to Toyota somehow. And I was working with Toyota Financial Services for a short contract. I was still with Agama Solutions as my consulting firm. I went to work for Toyota for, I think, good 8 months. But then I realized Toyota was great learning, like their processes, the business process value of Toyota is amazing. So in 6 to 8 months, I learned everything about business process management. How do you create? So by education, I'm Lean and Six Sigma certified in my engineering management course. When I went to Toyota, it's actually taught me how to use Six Sigma, how do you use process mapping to solve problems. So while I was doing that, I realized that, even though Toyota is great, but I think my passion really lies in healthcare. And that's when I decided to move, and I moved to an organization called North American Medical Management, which is part of Optum Care. Now, Optum Care is one of the entities within United Health Group, which is, I think, $270 billion enterprise. It's huge. Now they're Fortune 5, and they're growing at a crazy fast speed. I was there for 6 years. Before recently, a month and a half ago, I made the decision to move and go to a smaller organization and start working at the grassroots level. And I got to P3 Health Partners, which and I started here as the Chief Technology Officer, building really next generation of healthcare ecosystem, which is technology enabled.
And so just give me a brief description of your team. Like how large is your engineering team and the overall spread?
Sure. So, let me talk about a little bit about the business first. So, our business P3 Health Partners is we manage risk on the behalf of health plans. So, our primary customers are the health plans who delegate the risk to us, so we can go manage the risk on patient populations. And the way we do it is through our network of providers, contracted and employed. So we have PCPs, we have specialists, we have hospitals in our ecosystem, long-term care, SNF, and whatnot. And it's really truly a value-based care system. So we are really managing the health of our populations by risk assessing them and building the plan of care by how their health risk is. So that's our business. Now, talking about the engineering team. So
someone who's doing Soul Cycle is more likely to die of a heart attack than someone who might be going for a walk with their dog.
Yeah, well, there's more math to it. So I think the math is that we calculate something called risk adjustment factor for each one of the patients, which it's a complex calculation, but the risk adjustment factor comes from your socioeconomic, socio-demographic conditions.
And then it gives you a score.
Exactly.
And then that in turn informs the providers to know what the co-pays are, or not the co-pay, but what the plan coverage is.
Yeah, and who they need to bring in first or bring in more often into their clinic, so we can manage more proactively on the higher risk patients or members and make sure that, so we basically subdivide our population in tiers and call it highest of the high risk versus these people are more prone to ER admissions.
What are the highest risk factors?
Well, there are multiple things we take into account there. One is obviously the number of chronic conditions that a patient might have. 2 is the medications, the amount of medications taken. 3 is the number of stays they've had in an emergency room or in a hospital. So those are some of the factors that sort of tie into calculating.
And you're tapping into your partners to get that data.
Yes, so we are tapping into multiple different ecosystems. So we are getting data from the health plans, we are getting data from our primary care, from the specialist, hospital, SNF, wherever a member or a patient has been, and wherever there's been an episode and an encounter documented. We pull that data into our environment, and then on top of that, we have built our business rules, which sort of calculate that risk adjustment factor on an ongoing basis.
Okay. And so your team?
Yes. So let me talk about my team. So the way we have our team is really within the technology team, we have IT, which is core infrastructure, cybersecurity, and support. The second team we've got is data engineering. So everything which is data integration, normalization, putting that into the warehouse, doing analytics on top of that, as well as working on the artificial intelligence portion of it, is all data engineering. And then the third one is product innovation, which is primarily driving the care experiences for the organization, for the professionals, in this case, the providers and the patients. So they build, everything from mobile apps to wearable devices to omni-channel experience of how these care providers and the patients interact with our technologies done by product innovation.
So do the providers have to enter data into your system, or do you integrate with existing systems?
Great question. So, I think P3 Health Partners is a fairly new organization. We are, I think, a year and a half old and growing very fast. So on the technology roadmap, currently our employed providers are on Athena, and it's completely integrated. Our contracted provider network is on disparate different systems, and we are integrating. The plan is to integrate them using, one of the FHIR and HL7 compliant interfaces that can bring the data into our environment.
Are the 3 Ps patients, plans, and providers?
Passion, people, and purpose. Or people, purpose, and passion.
Awesome. And so you're the size of your engineering team. So then you have these 3 groups.
Well, yeah. So as I said, right, I just got here and I'm building out. So I think the data teams are there. We have the data team, we have the IT. I'm building the product innovation right now from scratch, and that'll be my job in next year or so.
Do you have you been there long enough to kind of tell us about sort of the AI strategy or the tooling that you're using, or is that the secret sauce?
Well, I think it's the secret sauce, but I can explain you. I like conceptually what we are trying to do is integrate data from various different systems into one place. So we have a solid data, underlying data, and then some of the problems that we are trying to solve with artificial intelligence and machine learning are building decision support by building clinical correlations. 30% of healthcare data is unstructured data. So at the time of integration, we are also using NLP and computer vision to convert a lot of this unstructured data into structured data so we can do analytics on that. And we've got a whole lot of different use cases of automation that we are trying to do with AI.
That sounds exciting. I think the health tech space is there's so many companies wanting to bring some innovation to that space. Are you using data from wearable devices?
That's on our roadmap. So I think especially to manage chronic patients with chronic conditions, who we have to make sure that we are managing their ongoing health. We plan to use wearable tech and wearable devices and integrate all of that data into our secret sauce, which is our AI system, in order to predict any episodes or encounters that might happen.
One lesson I learned recently, which I think you also highlighted for me, was in building my company, I've often looked at how can I take this person and fit them into a role in the business. And last year I kind of learned this lesson the hard way, and I got to a place where I had to say, what does the business need, and who can fulfill those roles?
Right. Yeah, no, I think I follow the same principle. I think a lot of times, primarily like technologists, right? I see this problem with a lot of technology leaders as well as technologists in general, engineers. They look at technology first. So, hey, I've got this great AI engine. It works perfect. It can do this integration, that, and that, like 10 things. Well, I really want to use this. And then now let me go find a business problem that I can solve for using this great technology. So I think a lot of the engineers, at least with my experience, have fallen for that. What has been my success in big and small organizations, in years, has really been making sure you identify the problem first, the business problem, because a business is a business, right? It might have, 50 different things that need to be worked on. I think the ability to identify the top 5, which is going to make 80%, 70-80% impact on your business. So identifying the problems and then trying to solve it, not just with technology. Technology is not always the answer. I think you need to think as a problem solver, people, process, and technology, and combinations. So sometimes it's all 3, people, process, tech. Sometimes it's just process and tech. And sometimes it's not tech. Sometimes it's people and process. And as you fix it, things will get fixed. So I think we, as across the board, what I tell my teams is look at business problems, make sure you quantify the business problems, and then go out solving for it, not just with tech, but with people, process, and
so tech. You're saying empower your teams then also to think about business first, not just a C-level exercise.
Oh, no. C-level exercise, I truly feel, because I come from grassroots, I've worked my way up in the organizations I've worked at. as technologists, as process engineering folks, as anyone in the organization, if you do not understand the problem, you cannot solve for it, even if the solution is tech. So what I do with my teams is I structure them in a way where they are very closely aligned with the business. I don't see a tech team as a different team. I align them directly with the business unit, so they know the business that they are supporting, and though they know all about it. And their job is to look at that first and see how they can enable those business business units or solve those problems using tech and process.
Yeah, I've had. Are your teams local or?
They are local for now.
I've had a real challenge sometimes bringing product empathy or customer empathy, product focus, business focus to my dev teams, because many times they would say, you're loading up my brain with 90% of like things I have to think about,
right?
When what I really want to do is code and solve technical challenges.
True.
So how do you do you have engineers like that? And then how do you help them see the light?
Well, I think that's how the way you build your teams is so important, right? The way I am a big fan of Agile Scrum, and I really build stuff by iterative approach. And big part of Agile Scrum is having a very strong Scrum Master. And the way I look for Scrum Master is really a pseudo person who knows, I will not hire the best engineer out there or best Scrum Master who's done all the development without having the tribal knowledge of the business. So I also call them product CEOs. So I hire the right product CEOs who can build that culture within their group. So they don't necessarily have to push down all the details to the developers. But I think those Scrum Masters or product CEOs are so much more important in this day and age.
To help preach the message.
Exactly. To pitch the message and even to prioritize by business problems.
So if I can touch on the future. So you have so many startups trying to develop ecosystems, new file sharing formats, new protocols in the healthcare space. How is everyone just running a race to see who can get their systems adopted the quickest? Or is there some sort of consortium or some sort of agreement between all these startups to work together towards one common glorious goal?
I've not seen the consortium yet. I think there's a mad rush, but there's a reason for the mad rush, Etienne, if you really go back to the root cause. If you see all the other industries, you see automotive industry or airlines or finance, they have now been disrupted with technology. There's so much technology. Like I could not imagine. Now I see Ubers or Lyfts, and I cannot imagine that we were paying 4 times more price for the same service not too long ago. And same thing with how you book tickets or you get flights, things like that. So everything has disrupted. Healthcare is at the cusp right now of that disruption with technology. And I think that's where you see all that, the big mad rush. So I really feel like you see the three-way, Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan, right? That's a consortium, like 3 big, huge giants coming together to solve for healthcare costs. Or organizations like United Health Group, Optum, or some of these consolidations that you see, CVS, Aetna. So there's a lot of movement in the space right now. But I really feel that it's not a small problem. This is a very compliance-heavy industry, a lot of regulations and laws. So, there's a mad rush right now. But at the end of it, if you keep patient at the center of all of it and really find ways to build a great patient experience, if you find ways to cut down the healthcare costs. So, as an organization, if you go back to the quadruple aim, which is build the best patient experience out there, reduce the cost of care, improve quality of care, and improve physicians' experience in providing care to their patients. As a organization, if you are following that 4 principles and you take that 4 pillars of yours, and whatever you do is around that, and you go back to the roots and say, this is how I'm going to impact this or cut across, you'll be successful.
But those 4 pillars could be on a sinking ship, right? I mean, you're still in a ecosystem that is essentially sick.
Yeah. Agreed. And I agree. And see, that's why I see that as an opportunity. I mean, you think of healthcare, we are spending 1/3 of our GDP on healthcare. We are, in terms of healthcare cost, we are the top nations in the world spending so much money on healthcare. In terms of interoperability, we don't share data. Data is not shared between ecosystem. So I think it's less of technology problem. I think we have to look at it holistically, from policies to regulations to technology to health systems, and then try to solve it.
I like the analogy or the analogous description for taxis and Uber, where you were paying 4 or 5 times more for a taxi for the same trip. It'll be interesting to see if the Uber for healthcare is upon us, or is coming soon, or is somehow going to completely destroy this current ivory tower.
Yeah. And see, that's that, as there are multiple principles or trends from other industries that healthcare is trying to catch up to. And Uber for healthcare, like Uber Health, is already a company, right? Well, they're dealing with mostly patient transportation, but I think as a healthcare model, I think a lot of big and small healthcare systems are looking at stuff like this, and I am pretty confident that very soon, or we are already at a point where disruption is happening, and CMS and a lot of these government organizations are supporting it. Like telehealth is now a reality.
So if you can help me visualize, when you say it's almost here or it's almost going to happen, what is that? Is it paying a fraction of the monthly fees I'm paying now? Is it less invoicing from individual contractors? Is it, like, what does that look like? I know when we went to Germany, one of us had surgery and it cost us like $15. And it was world-class surgery, and it was in and out and done.
Right.
What does a perfect health care system look like in the United States? If we can magically just fix it.
Right.
I feel like you're thinking about that. So
Yes. So I think the perfect healthcare system is something that you just talked about. You went in with the best. So what you're telling me is you went in for a surgery. The experience was amazing. So the care that was provided to you was top quality care. Number 2, the cost of care was low.
It was negligible.
Yeah, it was like next to nothing. The care outcome is we are here and we are talking, and you seem very healthy and you look good. And the quality. So we covered the quality, the cost, your experience, and I'm sure the physicians, if they are working in that ecosystem, will not have. How are the physicians looking like, or the clinician?
No, that's a good question. This was in Germany, and it was at a stage where all Germans looked angry. We hadn't learned the language yet, so it was scary.
Okay.
A little.
Okay.
They could have been saying, "Hey, please enjoy this breakfast," and we heard, "You better enjoy this only meal you're going to get for the rest of your hospital stay."
Okay.
So I don't know.
All right, maybe.
But I hear you. You're saying those 4 pillars are sort of, if it's this new system will succeed in those 4 things.
Exactly.
The only question that remains is brinjal. South Africans call it brinjal as well.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, I was. So I'll tell you my brinjal story and capsicum too.
Thank you.
So my first day in, I think my first week in US, I went with my friends to shop for groceries, and we go to this Fresh and Easy, and I was looking at vegetables. I didn't find now eggplant and green bell peppers, and I'm like, I can't find brinjal and capsicum. Where the heck is it? So I asked for this guy who's helping me out, and I'm like, I can't find brinjal. Can you help me with that? It's like, what are you talking about? And at the time, smartphones were not there, so I could show him. So, so he's like, what are you talking about? I said, brinjal. He said, he's like, explain to me what you're asking me. Like, is this, he almost.
And you didn't know the alternative word.
I didn't know there's anything like eggplant that
exists. So you
exists.
had to describe, it's like me trying to describe a concept to my kids that I don't know which words I'm going to use.
Right. And the way I described it was probably bad. So so the guy almost thought that I'm messing with him.
Wow.
And he's like, dude, I've not heard this term. This doesn't look like we don't have it. I said, it's a vegetable. Well, we don't have it. So I'm like, okay, fine. Then I went back home and I asked my friends, and they're like, what the heck are you talking about? Go ask for eggplant. So that's our British English, which was spoken in India.
No, capsicum is something I've never heard of.
Oh, is it?
No.
So in British English, they call green bell peppers as capsicum.
Oh.
But if you don't know the term, it's a nebulous term, right? It's like something bad or something.
My all-time favorite Indian dish is butter chicken.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Unmesh, this was awesome.
Same here.
Thank you very much for sharing with us and being with us and bringing a little bit of my home to me with our early discussion.
Yeah, no, and thanks for inviting me. I think this was a great experience discussing healthcare, discussing life. It was an amazing experience.
Thank you, Unmesh.
All right.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Hi, thank you for listening to the CTO Studio. If you don't mind, take a quick second and please rate and review the show. It helps us a lot. Go to thectostudio.com for more information on what we're doing at 7 CTOs. We also have a video or two for you that could be a helpful resource for you as you're managing your company. So thank you for listening.